Hello, Dr. Mark here at Natural Health. Um, we're going to go ahead and start working on a patient education workshop for this evening. Our topic is mercury and amalgams and how they interrelate with possibly Alzheimer's and dementia. So we're going to start with a little history of myself, Dr. Mark Bushlag, chiropractor and nutrition. Been working in this profession for 37 years now already. My two sons, Dr. Chip, are here to help now. Dr. Chip is doing a lot of the chiropractic work, and then my son Eddie is working on helping me with the nutrition work and also the energy coaching. So we have lots going on at the office now, lots of help. Again, been doing this for 37 years, raised four sons. They were football players. We had a lot of experience with sports injuries, so we do a lot of that in the office too. We work with nutrition our whole time, and activator adjusting. Activator is a real light force way of adjusting in the chiropractic world, so we can adjust about anybody. Have a lot of fun with that. As you listen in this evening, if you'd like to ask a question or two on the comment section, you can put that in there, and we'll answer questions as we go through. So let's go ahead and get started. So mercury. What is mercury? First off, mercury is a heavy metal. It's a neurotoxin, so it causes lots of problems in the body, and it's sneaky, and then it can get in there and cause trouble when people don't really know what it's doing. You can have all kinds of different symptom complexes from it, and the main health effects of mercury are it's very deteriorating of the nervous system. It impairs hearing, speech, vision, and gait. It causes involuntary muscles to spasm, and it corrodes the skin and mucous membranes, and causes chewing and swallowing to become difficult. So we have some handouts in the office that we'll make available to anyone who wants to stop by. It kind of explains about that. In our testing, we find probably at least 95% of our patients have mercury as a problem for them. And what trouble it causes for us is it keeps the body from being able to heal itself. Since it's a neurotoxin, it messes up the nervous system. The autonomic nervous system cannot work correctly. The body cannot heal correctly. So we work at getting the body, which the body has a very good mechanism for getting these heavy metals out. We work on helping the body to do that better, more efficiently, staying away from some of the medical approaches, which are don't always work as well, and sometimes cause more side effects. So the natural approach, I feel, is always better. Go over a couple myths about mercury and mercury amalgams, and then we'll try to tie that into some Alzheimer's, dementia, brain development stuff. So mercury, well, the myths and truths in nutrition, we're going to look at that some more in a little bit, but myths and truths, there's a lot of information out there about nutrition and different things, and much of it is myths are just marketing. It's not always truthful. So we're at Natural Health Chiropractic Center, we're always looking at what is the truth, what actually works in the body, and try to cut through a lot of that. So here's some myths on dental amalgams. The first one, amalgam is not mercury. So the mercury amalgams in your mouth, that's the silver or dark filling, is actually 50% mercury by weight. So they definitely have a lot of mercury in there. The second myth is that amalgams are stable. Well, they are, as long as you don't chew on anything or put anything warm in there. So if you're constantly chewing, you're releasing mercury gas, which gets into the nervous system and other areas, even other organs. We find it in the thyroid a lot. So definite problems there. Another one is amalgams are safe for children. Well, no. Mercury, of course, is not good for anyone. And so we want to keep it out of the teeth of children especially, and some of the other sources of mercury can sure cause trouble for the kids. So we work with a lot of kids to help remove this neurotoxin and other poisons and toxins that get in there too. So definitely not safe. Another myth is that amalgam is the gold standard. Well, it was maybe back in the 1950s before we really got to looking at the side effects and what trouble mercury was causing. But now dentists and everybody can use the porcelain fillings, which are just fine and no problem there. And then amalgam is the only choice. And again, no, for the fillings, you can use porcelain. You can use other things too, but porcelain is usually the main one. It's a little more expensive, but there's no side effects or problems from that. So one other, as I'm doing some research for our talk today, one of the studies I came across was how mercury affects the learning in children. And so it affects, again, as a neurotoxin gets into the brain. Well, the same thing works for adults. It works for everyone. So if the mercury is in the amalgams or whatever other source there's other sources for mercury, gets into the brain and nervous tissue, well, that can be at least a part of the reason for dementia and Alzheimer's. So we kind of focus on dementia and Alzheimer's this month here at the office. And so mercury is a part of that. Lots of other reasons too. Mercury's also been pointed to towards autism there. And again, it may not be the only factor in autism. So just one of the things in our office that we look at that could be a problem, and making sure that we handle that too when we go through everything. So again, if you have any questions on mercury, let us know. Otherwise, I'll continue on. We can always come back to those questions in a while. So now we'll go ahead and go through our regular patient education workshop materials. So we have more handouts in the office, and again, if you come to one of these in person, a whole bunch of good, we call them the goodie bag handouts that you can take along. So the first handout we're looking at here is the myths and truths about nutrition. Again, we heard about some of the myths, and here are some more that are kind of interesting. The first one here is that vegetarianism is healthy. Now, the truth is the annual all-cause death rate of vegetarian men is slightly more than that of non-vegetarian men, and the annual death rate of vegetarian women is significantly more than that of non-vegetarian women. So the idea here is when we have patients come in who are on the standard American diet, eating a lot of junk and things, we basically put them on a more vegetarian diet, and that works as a really good detox diet. So in that part, it's really good. It helps people clean out, do a lot of detox, and get better. But the long term is that people need essential fatty acids and essential amino acids that vegetarians have a hard time getting for the long-term healing and optimum health. So that's why we work towards extra proteins and fats in the diet to get the person better. And that's why we have these different death rates here. Women especially need more fats to have hormones to work correctly. So that's why it's important for men to get more oils and fats in the diet. Another myth is to avoid heart disease, we should use margarine instead of butter. And of course, the truth is margarine eaters have twice the rate of heart disease as butter eaters. So, why is that? Well, margarine is 2 steps away chemically from plastic, something the body was never meant to have in there. And so it's very anti-healthful, where butter is a food. Now, I realize the cholesterol thing, you've heard about that in butter, but if you check in the cholesterol, that's a whole other topic we'll talk about some night. But cholesterol is not the problem, it's sugar. Sugar is what's inflammatory in the body. The body makes the cholesterol to help handle the inflammation due to the sugar and high spiking insulin rates. So that's why these death rates come out this way again. Another one is that beef causes colon cancer as a myth. Well, the truth is Argentina with higher beef consumption has lower rates of colon cancer than U.S. Mormons, which have a lower rate of colon cancer than the vegetarian Seventh-day Adventists. So again, with all kind of foods, it's not the food that causes the problem, it's the person's body and what's going on in there. If they can't digest meat, some people have a very hard time digesting red meat, they don't need to eat a whole lot. But it's not the meat that's the trouble. So we need to get away from thinking that that's the trouble. It's not, it's the body, whatever's going on in there, whatever history a person has. They might have terrible bowel flora, they may be on antibiotics for a long time, all kind of things that can lend towards problems in the bowel. Leaky gut, a big one, a lot of gluten, people with gluten issues. We see it all the time in the office. So a lot of things going on in there. Don't just blame one thing. There's lots of other reasons there too. So we'll go on to the next one, and I do have a studio audience here, so I'm kind of helping them find their place. So the next handout, Our Health, What Exactly Is the Problem? I like to read the first two paragraphs here. We have drifted into this deplorable position of national malnutrition quite inadvertently. It is a result of scientific research with the objective of finding the best ways to create foods that are non-perishable, that can be made by mass production methods in central factories and distributed so cheaply that they can sweep all local competition from the market. Then, after it develops a suspicion that these quote-unquote foods are inadequate to support life, modern advertising steps in to propagandize the people into believing there's nothing wrong with them, that they are the products of scientific research intended to produce a food that is the last nutrient value, and the confused public is totally unable to arrive at any conclusion of fact and continues to blindly buy the rubbish that is killing them off years ahead of their time. This is written by Dr. Royal Lee. Dr. Royal Lee was an engineer, and then he actually got his dental degree to help kids that were having all kind of dental caries. This is written probably about 90 years ago. This was before a lot of the commercial fast food spots, Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's and all these places. So they were having lots of problems. Basically, this all started with the advent of white flour, white sugar, and more the use of that over 20, 30 years. And these doctors and people were seeing these problems. Dr. Worley is also the inventor of standard process nutrition, the nutrition line we carry here. He was a brilliant person and knew where to get the foods and the nutrients in the food source so that our bodies would absorb them. A lot different than going to a place and buying a synthetic vitamin. Those aren't really foods. You need whole foods to help the body to heal itself. So we'll go into our little high-tech presentations here. The first one here, we have a triangle that's kind of a microcosm of the body. And you can see the three corners, nutritional deficiency, organ dysfunction, and disease. And we're talking here about any degenerative disease. So again, Alzheimer's dementia would be a degenerative disease of the brain and that system. Diabetes is a degenerative disease of the sugar handling system, pancreas, that area. Cardiovascular system, heart attacks and things, are a degenerative disease of the cardiovascular system. So you get the picture. Most anything that you have problems with is a degenerative disease. So on the three corners of the triangle, the bigger you make one, the bigger the other one gets. So the more nutritional deficiency you have, the more organ dysfunction you have, the more degenerative disease. It becomes a big negative spiral, and we have all kind of problems in it. So what I have in my goodie bag is a sugar quiz. I'm going to have my studio audience take the sugar quiz here, and just go ahead and fill that out. Yeah, a little quiz there. Good. And I'll change the board and just talk about sugar a little bit. So if I take that off and put sugar on the top here, and we're talking about refined sugar here, of course, but it works the same. The more sugar, more nutritional deficiency, more organ dysfunction, and again, that big negative spiral we're trying to avoid. So the paradox is that the body can run on sugar. The body has the ability to burn sugar, glucose. We hear this from people that promote a high-carb diet, even in the mainstream medical world, the low-fat, high-carb thing, because they're looking at the glucose from a chemical point of view, that the body can burn that, so why not? The problem that runs into is when we get into these foods that have lots of other sugars, especially fructose, and table sugar, the white sugar, is just as a sucrose, which is half glucose and half fructose. And the fructose is really a big problem for the body to be able to use. Fructose is very hard on the liver, hard for the body to use that. And then when you get lots of it, you get a big insulin release. And when that insulin stays high, insulin is very inflammatory in the blood vessels, and that's what drives a lot of the cardiovascular problems. The body uses the cholesterol to help this irritation, but it causes trouble of its own, but it's not the cause. So it's important to realize that sugar is the problem here. How is your quiz going? Got it done good. So if you look at the bottom of the page, the quiz results are there. So if you answered false to more than 4 of the statements, chances you are probably sugar sensitive. You're probably allergic to sugar and also addicted to it. The same way an alcoholic is addicted to alcohol, and the same way cocaine addict is addicted to cocaine. It's the same endorphin release that causes this addiction. You crave sugar, have withdrawal symptoms when you don't get it, and probably feel better for a short time after you've eaten it. In eating sugar to feel better, you would actually make the condition worse. Again, because white sugar has no minerals. It's taken out of food context. And so there's no minerals, no fiber, no anything with it. And so the more of that you eat, the more you're pulling the body down, the more you're draining the body's reserves. And that allows bugs and pathogens and all kinds of disease processes to start. If you answered false to 4 statements or fewer, it doesn't mean you don't have a problem with sugar. You might not be addicted to it, but perhaps you don't quite realize just how much sugar you're eating. So when we get into our little information on sugar here in a bit, the different names for sugar, a lot of people are getting a ton more sugar than they think, because it just on the labels of packages, it doesn't just always say sugar. There's 61 other different names for sugar. So so then when we go to the next page, it has the 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health. This is by Dr. Nancy Appleton, PhD. But basically, it just lists all the degenerative diseases and how sugar is a big part of that. Sugar's many disguises. Again, this is our little handout on the different names for sugar. There's 61 and counting. So, for instance, one of the first ones on this list is agave nectar. It sounds like something from the gods or whatever. It's so great. Well, it's just sugar. It's taken out of food context, so it's sugar. High fructose corn syrup, a big problem. The fructose is even worse than sugars in general. But dextrose and dextrin, glucose, honey, lactose, maltose, palm sugar, raw sugar, all these things are sugar, all taken out of sugar, out of food context. And again, we just get too much of it, and it sure causes problems. So, good. The 3 tastes. This is a little handout that talks about the body has a taste for sugar, salt, and fats. So the manufacturers know how to use that against us. So if you go to the store to buy something that's low fat, well, it tastes terrible, so it's a lot higher in sugar and salt. Or if you find something that's got low salt, then it's going to be higher in sugar. So just something to be aware of. The body has a taste for this because of famine, and the body knows that it needs those things to survive a famine. That's, again, to survive, not optimum, but to survive. So there's better ways to living than on sugar, salt, and fats for optimum health. And then a video that we try to get patients to watch on YouTube. It's a 60 Minutes article. It's called "Is Sugar Toxic?" And it goes into some explanations from other medical disciplines on why sugar is a problem. And Dr. Robert Lustig, who is the interviewer or interviewee on this video, has a great YouTube channel that explains more about sugar in lots of detail. And so it's good to watch there. If I go to our next high-tech presentation board, the question is, how do we fix this? How do we help the body then to heal itself from all this degenerative disease? So the answer is through a technique that we use called nutrition response testing. So nutrition response testing, and I will quote the president of the company, Dr. Freddie Ulan, that his definition is nutrition response testing is a non-invasive system of analyzing the body in order to determine the underlying causes of ill health. When these underlying causes are corrected through safe, natural, nutritional means, the body can repair itself in order to attain and maintain optimum health. So nutrition response testing is just a really great way of figuring out what that body needs to get well, and it's non-invasive, very easy to do, just using whole foods. So there's no medications, nothing like that, and actually we work at getting people off medications. So in doing our testing over the years, we've done blood tests, hair analysis, urinalysis, salivary testing, and those tests are good for certain things, but they're not really good for looking at what the body needs health-wise or food-wise, nutritional-wise. So we've used an arm strength test in our office to determine that, which again is part of the nutrition response testing technique. So I'm going to have my son, Dr. Chip, come over and I'm going to explain how this works. So we're using an arm strength test here. We bring the arm out, have you hold the arm tight. Good. So now the arm is strong. Relax the arm. So this arm strength testing works on the principle of hypothermia. So hypothermia is where if you go out, say in wintertime, you're going to go ice skating, and you fall in, get back out, and try to make it back. Well, the body wants to save the core, all the organs, the brain, everything else, and will sacrifice the appendages to keep that core alive. This is a principle of how muscle testing works. It's not voodoo or magic. It just works on this principle. So again, if we're testing the body and we hold the arm tight, it's strong. If I irritate an organ area on the body, and like the heart, for instance, irritate that area and the arm goes unlocked, then it tells me that the heart has a weakness. Not particularly a disease state, but some kind of weakness in there. Then I know through my education that if I use nutrition, this one called Cardio Plus, which has an energy there that interacts with the body's energy when I put it on the body. And if I put that on the body and pressure test that again and the arm is strong, that tells me then that this nutrition will help that problem. A very simple, easy way of figuring out what does that body need, rather than here, try this, try that, let's see if that works, those kind of things. This just always works very well. We have very good luck, or very good success with all of our people that stay with the program that we put them on. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
good job.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, good. So the next handout we have is what patients are saying, some testimonials from patients, actually some fun stories to read through. The next one is a nutrition response testing, a little more explanation of that. So again, if you come to one of these, or we can get these handouts to you to help understand this. And then as we're doing our nutrition response testing technique, we're getting a designed clinical nutrition approach for that patient. What that means is design means for that patient, it's very individual for that person. Clinical means that we don't care what it is as long as it works. So again, when we're using whole foods, that's what the body's meant to have for it to be well. So we can get a very good result clinically, and that's what we aim for. And then we're using a whole food nutrition, which again is just food. So there's no side effects. The worst thing that can happen for us is that nothing happens, but that never happens. We always get good results when people follow the program. And of course, we're having them watch their diet and things like that, working towards a lifestyle change. But again, very, very good response to almost everyone that comes in if they follow the program. Good. So I'll go to the next board here. Again, if you have any questions, you can put that on the comments there. And if we don't get to it today, we'll look at it later, and then we can always answer questions back on the comment section below here. Again, when we're doing our work, we're looking at overall health. People come to our office with a symptom list that they have concerns about, and so we're watching those symptoms, but we know that if we get the person healthy, symptoms will go away all by themselves. Symptoms are the red light on the dashboard of your car flashing, going, something's wrong in here, you got to help me. Well, using a medication, for example, just like putting a black tape over that light, you know, that symptom looks gone, but the problems are still there. So we want to look at what the underlying cause is, get the nutrition and change the habits, whatever that got that there, and then those symptoms go away. Again, looking at overall health and actually optimum health is really what we're striving for. Get that body the best we can get it. Again, our products are all safe and natural. We're just using food, so there's no problems there at all. And we use the same nutrition for kids and elderly and all kinds of sicknesses and disease. So just that's what we know how to use with our nutrition response testing. So a couple more handouts here. This is one, it's a lab test that looks at the vitamin D level, and we moved it from 25 to a 29.7, or 29.7 to a 33, sorry, and that was vitamin D without adding vitamin D. This is just getting the digestive system to work correctly. It's working on getting rid of the anti-nutrients like white sugar. We're giving the body oils and fats, good quality oils and fats. That's where vitamin D is in a whole food source, and giving the body the ability to absorb these things. The next one on the bottom here was the hemoglobin A1C. It was an 8.0. We got it down to a 6.6 at this time. Again, just by changing diet and lifestyle, no medication, just working with the patient there. If you come into one of these classes, we have a public education workshop screening form. If you fill that out for us, then we will give you an free initial exam. And what we're doing for the folks on Facebook and Instagram, if you come in and use the word green this week, that's green, G-R-E-E-N, then you will get the same offer. We'll do the initial exam for free. There's no cost to it. And then you come back for reported findings. We'll have it all written out and explain what we find in your case. If you want to do a program, that's fine. If not, that's fine. At least let you know how we can help, because we can help everything. It's really interesting how people will respond to good nutrition and then not shooting themselves in the foot every meal. It's so important to look at their diets. There's a book list. We have a book list of people who are more interested in that. There are also a lot of websites to go to for more information. One of the best ones, of course, we have our own naturalquincy.com, but one of the best ones is westonaprice.org. They have a lot of organic eating, organic growing, all kind of good information on there. Been a lot of other ones, especially for certain things like wild food and different things like that. There's a videos list. These are all on YouTube. Pottinger's cat studies kind of goes over some information on genetics. Hungry for Change, foods in general. Again, Mercury Undercover. Again, that's a good one for tonight because, again, it goes over a lot of information on mercury, how it got into our society and why it's here and what trouble it causes. So a really good one for that purpose. The New Childhood in America. Of course, in general, our country is getting sicker. The kids, 1 in 3 is overweight, 1 in 6 have learning disabilities, 1 in 54 males have autism. These numbers are actually older, so it's becoming worse. And why is this? Our country spends the most on health per capita and is the bottom of the barrel of the industrialized countries for actual true health. Why is that? Well, we'll explain that to you when you come in. It's very interesting. So again, you're seeing some of that because we have the ability and have the money to go to the fast food joints and all this kind of stuff, which definitely has taken a toll there. We have a little handout that goes over the spinal levels and what problems that causes, and then what nutrition we can use to help that problem. So being the chiropractic background, we're looking at the structure of the human body, and again, not only getting people free of pain, but getting the nervous system to work correctly so the body can heal itself. So you have to have good nerve function, you have to have good nutritional support, and the body has to have barriers taken out of the way, like emotions and past emotional problems. That's what Dr. Eddie does in the office, helps us with that. So that's a good one to look at too. Our basic diet recommendations, we start patients off on a detox diet, and that's basically eating proteins in the morning, salads for lunch, and protein vegetable for evening. That's kind of the basic thing. And then we kind of see what that person likes. So we work towards that, and then after some time on our program, we try to tweak the body's diet or that person's diet to their body. People need different things, so we have ways of working that out. So a couple of rules we have patients follow: stay away from refined flour and sugar. You probably figured that out by now. Those foods, again, taste great, but they're causing all these problems. And then we do work on some food combining, trying to keep your proteins and oils away from fats, away from starches and carbs in the same meal. It causes a lot of problems. And then there's the last sentence here. I like to read this one. It says, many of our eating habits have been trained into us for generations. For example, grandma was a good baker, mom was a great baker, so every Christmas we ate 10 pounds of fudge and somehow catch the flu in January and have a history of diabetes and heart disease in their family. So the idea there is we're told that a lot of the problems we have are genetic, and if our parents had it, we're going to get it, and grandparents had it. Well, the thing that we see is that's the science of genetics, but the science of epigenetics is what causes those genes to switch on and off. And that we know is diet and lifestyle. Diet and lifestyle is what causes these genes to turn on and off. So if you have a genetic preponderance towards certain things, certain families have that, like certain families have more heart disease, and certain families have more cancer, certain families have more diabetes. There's a genetic preponderance, but if you change diet and lifestyle to get things to work correctly, those genes can turn off. And so we don't have to worry about that. It's not a foregone conclusion. So just keep that in mind. Good. So any questions? We get any questions? So do I have any questions? Do you have any questions? Perfect. I've explained it perfectly.
You have.
So you'll think of some tonight about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we'll go, I'm not sure I asked that question. So, but again, if you think of any questions out there, you can always put it in the comment section if you watch this video later than the live presentation right now. Again, we have these every Monday night, 6 o'clock. Again, at the bottom there, press your likes. We really appreciate it. Any comments you have at all. If I got the wrong color tie on, just let me know. Also, again, to remember, if you come into our office and use the word green, we'll give you this initial nutrition exam for no charge. You can see what we do with this work. It's very valuable. It's very easy to do. And again, we've saved a lot of lives over the course of time, over these 37 years. So with that, I think we're done for the evening. And thanks for tuning in. See you later.